Okay, let's move on to what this afternoon is about. I'm sure you're probably been thinking a lot about, wow, there's a lot of content, there's a lot of information. We had a lot of real moments, right? Some moments that allowed us to reflect a little bit and think about, how does this apply to my world? And when I think about moments, it's not really easy for us to just say, every moment is important, right? Like we just don't have the capacity, right? Like it's like our hard drive can only take in so much. But what if we can break down some key moments that exist in our daily life, in our business, and in other areas that are important and vital for us to live a long, happy, successful, meaningful, fulfilling life? And if we were to achieve that, master those critical moments, what would that do for us? What could customers say about us? So I thought of a couple of acronyms of what our customers could call us in a reframed format, of course. Just imagine a customer being able to say, that accounting firm, they're a real SOB. And of course, I'm talking about streamlined onboarding. Or they can just say, my accounting professional, they're a real MFer. They provide me with minimum friction. Maybe you can come out of here with the courage to be able to finally do the big FU, right? The big FU. Of course, I'm talking about learning how to effectively do your follow-up. And ultimately, just imagine mastering those key moments so that you can finally be able to call your customers out on their BS. We're talking about balance sheets. Come on, y'all. Okay? So this is what I want you to take away from this, is that if you can master the moments that matter the most, you will be successful at achieving these outcomes. Let's jump into it. When I think about moments earlier in my career, for those of you who don't know, I used to work for a financial institution, for a bank, and we're talking a lot about customer experience, and they shared these concepts with me, and to this day, I still remember it 15 years ago. I went to a conference just like this. It was presented to me, and I memorized it because I felt like it spoke to me, spoke to my heart. So I wanted to share that with you. And so let's break down, what are the moments that exist in our life? We have something that's called an everyday moment. We know that to potentially be, if we think about it in the context of business, these are routine interactions that appear regularly, often could seem ordinary, but the culmination of knowing how to take care of the everyday moments is what helps you maybe avoid critical moments or difficult situations, right? For you to be able to be there to help your clients have no interruption and have a smooth, meaningful relationship with you so they can operate their business and be successful. Second moment that we've been talking about a lot is how to have critical conversations. We call those the critical moments. We know that if we were to put some weight between these two, these are the ones that we need to master, right? Earlier this morning, we talked about how do you build confidence? Well, we got to get the reps. How do we get the reps? We got to be ready for those moments. How do we get ready for the moments? We got to know what they are. Some of us face these moments over and over again, yet we still struggle to know how to master it. And we hope that later this afternoon, through some more reps, because I heard it, right? More reps is what builds confidence, right? With practice, you get better, right? Perfect practice achieves perfect. So these are pivotal interactions that appear in your world, but a challenge arises, and it requires a higher level of attention and a higher level of action. It typically is a conflictive moment. And so our role here is to address that, relieve our customers or the person who's in front of us, give them that relief, right? Because these are moments where someone is in pain. And then the third is probably my favorite, and maybe all of our favorites. It's what we call a signature moment. It's probably why you signed up to be an accounting professional. I bet you're a bit like me. You do what you do because you want to help people. Raise your hand if that's one of the main reasons, your purpose. And there's nothing more fulfilling. Make some noise if you think that it's nothing more fulfilling than when a client says, thanks to you, I was able to achieve this, right? There's nothing that makes you want to wake up and do it all over again than hearing that kind of feedback, being able to be someone that can have an impact on someone's life. So signature moments can only exist if we can identify how to make sure we understand how the everyday moments are taken care of so that they don't lead up to critical moments, how to master and diffuse, maybe even prevent and eliminate critical moments for our customers so that we can help them achieve more of that. Now, I want to share with you a quick little story back in the world where I was in the bank, which is a little bit of a caution. As you think about these three moments, you may think of yourself that everyday moments don't have a lot of value, but oftentimes everyday moments could be disguised as a critical moment. What do I mean by that? There are things that we may be seeing every day, and for some weird reason, we just could not see beyond what's in front of us. But maybe someone else comes to you and points out something, and you're like, oh, wow, like I didn't even notice, because we've been seeing it on repeat. I mean, how many of you have repeat and repeat and repeat customers that you've worked with, and you've sort of accepted a lot of these things that you know causes friction, but being able to address it, or you've, in essence, allowed it, but you know that there's something there that could be addressed, and if addressed, could be improved. And it reminds me of one word that really reminds me of this story is the word just. We talked about the word just. When I was in the bank early in my career, I was a personal banker, and we would have this process where, we serve clients that walk into the lobby and then they come for a service. Typically it's, I want to print a statement. I want to get a new debit card. Sometimes it's, I want to apply for a loan. But often we've got clients that come in over and over again, right? And these are some clients that we talk just about, hey, how's everything? How's the family, right? We've got this general rapport. But when it came to wanting to stay curious and identify, what are the moments that are happening in their life? Because it was showing up on repeat, we were just simply, potentially, missing out the opportunity of identifying that there could be some critical moments happening in their life. But because it just shows up and it's normal, hey, how are you? Everything's fine. We're not digging a little deeper. We're not staying a little curious. We could be missing those opportunities. So one day, a client came in. Before the client came in, I was in a coaching conversation with my leader. We're looking at reports of customers that come in on a weekly basis. We can actually see who is it that comes. And this customer kept showing up on the report, same customers, Mr. Smith, right? And my leader asked me, so tell me more about this customer. I was like, oh, that's just Mr. Smith. He comes in here all the time. He doesn't really need anything. And he's like, I'm curious. Let's take a look at some of his activity. We go into his banking relationship. We look at some things that are going on in his transaction history. And we notice this big activity happening in the bank where there's a big wire that came in. And it was like for $200 and something thousand. And I totally ignored it, right? This is a customer who walks in all the time. And in the last interaction, they just wanted a debit card. And that was my excuse to no, I didn't want to bother. They just wanted a debit card. He's like, but let me ask you, what do you think this could be? Let's kind of read what the line item looks like. We all know how to read bank statements, right? There's a line item. It gives us some sort of visual cue of what it could be. And it was some sort of escrow that came in. So my manager said, let's give him a call. I was like, okay, do me a favor, ask him this question. Say, hey, Mr. Smith, I know that you came in last week and We took care of getting your debit card. How was that, first of all? It was great, thank you, whatever. Just out of curiosity, I noticed that you have this in wire that came in for a significant amount. And just want to let you know, just wanted to ask, what were some of the plans that you had with that? Just by asking that extra question. And it turned out that this customer's family member had recently passed away. And from the estate, they received an inheritance. And started asking some more and more questions. And I realized they're actually going through a very difficult time, right? Learning how to navigate through this new financial inheritance that they've received and don't really know how to financially navigate through this situation. Frankly, they felt overwhelmed. Their emotions were at a high level, and they opened up. And it resulted as an opportunity for us to retain the business, because what actually happened was that they were just about to go to a competitor to talk to a financial advisor about something else. And had I not intercepted and maybe just asked that one question, we were at risk of losing a customer. So the reflection I leave with you is, where could there be critical moments that exist in your business where we're maybe just kind of brushing it off as an everyday moment? And taking some of the lessons that we had from the last few days, how can we stay a little bit more curious? Maybe ask that one extra question. Say, hey, I noticed blank. And just out of curiosity, think of an insightful question where it comes from a place of service. As Chris mentioned earlier in our jam, right? We want to make sure we are in service to others, because that could help you identify a critical moment that could lead to you playing that role in helping your customers achieve those signature moments, right? It's being able to be there when they need someone they could trust to navigate through these challenging, difficult circumstances. I want to share with you another story. This is a personal one. I asked some permission because it does involve Hector in it. Okay? So just remember, these are the three moments that matter. But I want to talk about a critical moment that appeared in my life, probably one of the most significant moments that changed the trajectory of how I looked at the world. It was a perspective changer. And later today, we'll do an exercise around what are some things we could do to help bring and invite others in changing their perspective. Who's that? So 30 years ago, our family, my dad, my mom is here. We moved to the States. And growing up, this was in the first year that we moved to the States. Growing up, I, believe it or not, you may think I didn't have this, but I was really challenged to understand language. I actually didn't start speaking until I was 2 years old because I had an official translator. Guess who that translator was? So I'd be like, And then Hector would be like, he wants to go to the park, and later, apparently he wants ice cream, and then he wants you to give him my ice cream. So to his benefit, Hector always talked very early at an age. But I also struggled with understanding like pretext, nuances. And I was telling one of my friends yesterday, like sometimes it's hard for me to read things like sarcasm because I kind of read with my heart a little bit, right? And words, in a very naive way, I would take words and I would really think that message, that intention was exactly what it meant. And so obviously I think all of us have probably experienced some sort of bullying or judgment, being judged, being called a name. And my parents were really worried about me because I was very violent in the way that I responded. I was always angry. I would beat the crap out of anyone who called me a dummy, or I would always get in a school fight. I even remember one day, like, I don't know, third grade, I got in a school fight and my dad was called to come and he kind of wanted to intervene. And I sat down with both of us and he starts talking to the kid. He starts asking, what's your dad's name? And he's like, oh, Jose. Oh yeah, I know your dad. He's whatever. And from my point of view, a kid who just got in a fight with another kid, I'm like, why are you talking to the enemy right now? But yeah, I would get into fights every year. And I would get triggered. I would get triggered by the words that were said to me. Like I would really believe what it is that was said to me. And of course, being very close with Hector, anytime we would hang out and play, or I'd watch him probably play on the computer, and I'd probably say something dumb, and he'd be like, "Ah, shut up, dummy." And I'd be like, "Don't call me dummy. Call me that one more time. See what happens next." And often, I would just respond because I didn't know what to say, right? Or I didn't know how to interpret it. So I respond with my fists rather than respond with my wit. And I would, 9 out of 10 times, I would lose that fight. Except one day. I was around 14, and he like threw a name at me, and I'm like, okay, we're about the same size now. The most epic fight you could ever remember. If you picture maybe anyone who watches Family Guy, there's this like epic chicken fight with Family Guy. It was kind of like a 17-minute long. We rolled down the stairs, and we were very ineffective. We weren't really good at fighting. It was just bad. Like he'd land on me for a moment and like swing fists, and then like in the middle of it, we'd take a break. It's like, okay, let's go back. Let me get some water. Right? And at one point, we're just kind of sitting in the bed, and I still remember it to this day. He's just like, this is not going to work out. and he's like asking me, he's just, why do you get so riled up? I'm just teasing you, man. Like, don't take it to heart. It doesn't really mean anything. I go, because I'm not dumb. Like in my head, from my perspective, I really thought he thought I was dumb. He's like, that's just something that kids say to you. And then he said this one sentence to me that was the biggest perspective changer of my life. And it was, you know, the only person that can control the way that you feel is you. It's like in my mind, it felt like THX introduction, like surround sound, everything made sense. And since that day, whenever I struggled, rather than resorting to violence, I just heard that voice. I kept on repeating that. And it changed the trajectory of everything. So I started using different tools like creativity, humor, over some different ways. And some of you may probably notice, and I've heard, and I appreciate the compliment saying, Carlos, you just have such a good vibe. And to honor some of the things that Chris was saying earlier about, you know, your 2-word, like find the vulnerability and lean into it. And I think that was my journey. I needed to have gone through that so that I can come out of it here where I am, right? So for some of you, sometimes critical moments are necessary for you to achieve the signature moments that you need or the transformation that you need. And some more than that, sometimes your customers need you to be courageous enough to hold those critical conversations with them so that you can help them achieve transformation and achieve those signature moments. So to recap, a couple of things that I also want to mention is not only do we want to prepare for our critical conversations, but this question comes up, well, what happens if the moment doesn't show up? What do we do? Well, if you don't recognize it, then could it be possible that we can create it? Right? Like how many of you have a critical moment that you need to create for your business? And as a result of it, if you could create that moment and you come out of it better than where you are now, it would significantly change the trajectory of that customer relationship, right? So I challenge you, where you can't find the moment, create it. And it takes courage to do that, right? And that's why the repetition is what helps you build that confidence, which will lead us to what our afternoon exercise will be. And one of the last things that I'll leave you with is that we want to become more aware of the critical moments that are disguised as everyday moments. Where are there situations that exist in your business with your team members? How many of you have ever had someone like just say that comment? Oh, that's just Nancy. Oh, that's just Carlos being Carlos, right? We're accepting it as an everyday moment, but what could be the risk of allowing those everyday moments that we're tolerating to the business, to the customer experience, right? What are you enabling? There's this phrase that says, you get what you tolerate. So that requires courage. It requires the commitment to want to be the change you want to see, as Hector said earlier. And ultimately, what's the goal that we want, right? We want to create more signature moments. So the way you manage our everyday and critical conversations sets the foundation for your signature moments. So that's it. That's my time. Thank you.